All right, folks, so the fun never seems to end. He's dropped another article shortly after this, Father of the Year one, that I thought was going to be the final word, right, on all of the personal dramas that he's been facing. Alas, we've got this one about Adezero. So let's just talk about whatever I know about Adezero before getting into the article. So, first time her name comes up, Ralph has accidentally leaked on stream that she is his girlfriend, as it were. Information then comes out. She's a 40-year-old woman. She seems to be a mod or some sort of affiliate of Encyclopedia Dramatica. Leo at the time is telling me that this woman is like a deep cover troll, is someone that's going to instantly leak Ralph's nudes, is simply there to turn Ralph into the biggest lolcow of our times. I sort of park that. I go, Leo, chill out. Maybe it's real. Maybe it's all affectionate. Maybe there genuinely is love between the Gunt and this alien. Alas, fast forward to the point where Josh is now doing an interview with her. Within the interview, she's saying her and Ralph had a relationship to the point where she was going to his house. She was cleaning his room. She declined mentioning sexual details of how she serviced Ralph, but it turned out Ralph shamelessly confessed on stream that she did indeed tongue his asshole whilst giving him a blowjob. Now, that's not a bit of lore I like to know, quite frankly. I wish I could rewind time and erase that from my mind. But here we are. She also, during that interview, confirms that Ralph has got 50k in the bank. Now, I'm not being mean, but I don't think 50k is, number one, a worthwhile amount of savings for somebody that's Ralph's age. And number two, I don't think 50k in the bank is enough to support the demon baby that's on its way. And Faith also. So there we go. But there were some very interesting revelations from that interview with Adezero. I was supposed to be doing an interview with her as well, or at the same time as Josh, but I fell asleep. But there were questions that I did write down that didn't get asked. So, I mean, if ever there were another interview with Ade, there's very fertile ground just excluding what's been happening recently. We fast forward to the point where, as of yesterday, Ralph is trying to get her fired from her job, doxing her to her own boss, saying, you know, look at this evil lady, she works for Encyclopedia Dramatica, you know, she cleaned my room. And now we're at this point in the timeline where Ralph has decided to drop not only a full dox, what it looks like, but also this tapestry of Kino and Nectar. I've not read it. I haven't read it. But if it's anything like the Father of the Year yesterday, this promises to be gold. Absolute gold. So let's just get into this. He entitles it, and already the title is just amazing. He entitles it Adrienne Blair, The Life of an E-Whore. So here we go, explosive revelations. He promises that this is going to be an 8-minute read, and I'm going to do my best to get through this as fast as possible, because usually when he promises, like, oh, it's an under 5-minute read, it takes us 2 hours to do the entire article. But let's get into this. So first of all, he puts up this image, a sort of side-by-side comparison of Adezero, the 40-year-old woman, in her Twitter display picture where, you know, she doesn't look 40. She looks maybe, if we're being flattering, late 20s. It's a very flattering picture. Next to a picture he's got or procured where she does look like the 40-year-old woman she's aged as. But again, I don't think she looks terrible. Maybe it's my eyes. Maybe it's a long day. I'm coming to the end of it and I'm a bit sleepy. But I don't think this is the absolute smackdown BTFO of Ralph putting the two pictures side by side. To me, it doesn't look like a catfish. To me, I could absolutely recognize that they were both the same woman. You know, there's not an absolute disparity between how they look, between their appearance. So the caption underneath these puts is, sorry, I'm straining my eyes here. He puts fiction versus reality. Many such cases. Again, I mean, what I'm seeing here is kind of like reality versus reality. Oh, let's get into the meat and taters of the article, ladies and gentlemen. He says, I first met Adrienne Blair of Farmington Hills, Michigan. Holy shit, so we're just laying out the whole docs in the first sentence. About 5 years ago, during the middle of the death throes of Gamergate? Holy fuck. So he's misspelled Gamergate, by the way. It's not just me, attempting to read his words. He's just misspelled Gamergate already within the first sentence, which is fine, Maybe it's a different form of Gamergate that we all weren't privy to, that only Ethan Ralph was privy to when he went to jail. She says that at that time she was dating a guy called Brian Zeiger. Back then, he was the owner of Encyclopedia Dramatica. The site is dead nowadays, and no one really gives a fuck about it, but back then, it really did have some influence. I used to write on this site daily and have tens of thousands of views. Aid, as I usually call her, was also a writer. So we talked about that sort of thing from time to time. It's like Mary Shelley and Lord Byron here, swapping notes, formulating the next literary classics. Holy fuck. So next line, as for her actual skill, she has... This is amazing. This is amazing. As for her actual skill as a writer, she has no flair or charisma on the page. This is amazing. But she can write a competent article. That's why I eventually let her write here. So she won the privilege to write on the ralphatort.com. But wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's go back to the timeline. So he's going to do a timeline for us. I don't need to do a timeline myself. So just quickly. He's saying here, he's judging her merits as a writer. He himself has already misspelled Gamergate. He himself is like the worst writer who calls himself a professional writer I know. It's insanity with which he pretends and larps as a journalist. Because even the most fucking gutter-tier journalist has the basic glib grasp of the English language, a more competent view of to call themselves a journalist than Ethan Ralph. But here we go, he's calling the 40-year-old woman Encyclopedia Dramatica moderator a woman with no flair or charisma on the page. Whatever that says about Ralph, I don't know. Says, as I mentioned, Adrienne Blair was dating Zeiger at the time. Before all was said and done, she would break up with him over 5 times. He used to slap her around. Isn't it funny how all of the women that Ralph gets in contact with, he always is the one that they admit, right, that I was slapped around, Ralph, protect me, Daddy, Ralph. It's not like he's just making this up at all, right? It's not like he's just making himself to be this paragon of virtue who collects all of these beaten women. It's by the way, it always amazes me how he throws out, he used to slap her around all the time. It's not just her he's done it with. I think he's done it with Faith. Certainly he's done it with Faith, right? Whether he did it with Nora or not. But, I mean, this guy is a piece of shit. He used to slap her around often, and he was also a heroin addict. Fucking double smackdown. However, this is a woman who hates herself and usually has about 18 pills worth of Adderall coursing through her veins at any given time. Holy fuck. So now she's not only is she a shit writer, not only is she a catfish, not only is she a shit writer, not only was she beaten by her ex-boyfriend, but she is also an addict, a drug addict herself. And now she's a liar. She's told countless lies about me and others. Now, I'm not sure about her story. Perhaps she's not telling the full tale and has actually lied about some of the violence allegedly committed against her by Zeiger. Of course, since I didn't know her true character at the time and she had been a friend, I didn't even question it. Like, it's not even his story to tell, isn't it? Like, is it really his story to tell here? just laying open and public this woman's history of being domestically abused. Like, is that really Ralph's place? To try and do it is like a win? Only in Ralph's fucked up mind is this a win. Let's go. I didn't know anything at the time besides what she told me. Fast forward to 2018 or so, and she's broken up with Zyger, this time for good, allegedly. I guess he tried to strangle her or something at the apartment. So this bastard is just leaking out domestic abuse to try and get a win. This is deplorable. This genuinely isn't okay, is it? Maybe it's just me and my bleeding heart liberal mindset where I think this is pretty fucked up. But I think on a human level, right? Human level, this is fucked. Totally fucked. I was appalled by this behaviour at the time, and whilst I completely disavow it, I can certainly understand the mindset a little bit more. So he's sympathising and empathising with domestic abusers. He's saying he understands the mindset a bit more, whether it's because he wants to now pummel Aid into the ground, or whether it's because he's thinking, shit, I've had enough of this child bride. Kingdom Hearts, she's platinumed Kingdom Hearts, she's got all of the trophies. I don't know what to do apart from start knocking her about a bit. Maybe that's what Ralph's thinking. It's certainly what his words are saying here. Ms. Blair, which is Adezero, in retaliation for this, released pretty much every bit of dirt she had on Zyger, phone calls, pics, etc. He did indeed look like a mental case. Back then, I thought he deserved it, and that this was some kind of special event that justified that kind of release. Now I know Adrienne Blair, I can tell you that's just the way she goes through life. Again, it's Ethan Ralph, a man who will openly, contact the children's school if you're Sargon of Akkad to try and get you fucked over. A man who will contact and send pictures of PPP's splayed anus to his grandfather to try and get away. This Ethan Ralph, right? But now he's on his moral high ground. During this period, Zyger had also had Encyclopedia Dramatica stolen out from under him. By most accounts, he deserved this, so I won't go into the autistic detail. But I do wonder if that was the final blow that caused her not to want him back. I mean, he had openly cheated on her, slapped her around, stolen money from her, and, according to her, leaked compromising photographs. Oh, shit. Still, she took him back every single time. The only thing that was different this time is that he no longer owned Encyclopedia Dramatica. You see, Aid is like a whore moth. This fucking simile, this metaphor even. Adezero is like a whore moth attracted to the E-Fame flame. Now, I would have condensed that. I'd have said the E-Flame, bit of flair and charisma on the page, Ralph. Sadly, we didn't get that this time round. I didn't realise it back then, but some lessons you just have to learn on your own. So we've had this potted, distorted, venomous life history of Adezero given by Ralph. Fast forward to early 2020, I'd been friends with Aid for half a decade by now, albeit not close. I was just about to announce my divorce, however, she didn't know this little detail, so she was out of the loop. She was in the Williamsburg area, about an hour away from my home in Richmond, Virginia. She asked me if I wanted to meet up with her and her 22-year-old boyfriend. She's 40. And I said, sure. The drive wasn't too bad, and the food at the Amber Ox was delicious. So now we're in this, MySpace Tumblr blog. But her and her paramour put off a very strange vibe. Did they want a threesome, Ralph? Did they want you to throw your keys in the fruit bowl? But she would later tell me that it was all the meth and Adderall in her system. But back then I had no idea. Also her boyfriend, Jacob, who she Can we just get into this, by the way? If she is a drugged out meth whore, she does look pretty good for a drugged out meth whore. Is that just me? Like, Ralph's a drugged out alcoholic, and he looks like he's 60, and he's only, in his early 30s. You know? She's supposed to be a missing toothed, crone hooked on meth. The meth moth. She doesn't look as bad as Ralph does. I don't know. Who's lying here? But her and her paramour put up a strange vibe. Adderall in her system, I had no idea. Also, her boyfriend, Jacob, who she eventually helped take over ED, lol, looked like a complete spurg in a full-length... in a full-length school shooter coat. So, Ralph drives out to meet a hung-out fucking meth whore crone and an autist LARPing as Keanu Reeves in The Matrix. This is great. The only thing that was missing was a goddamn fedora. He also acted very strange, but even more strange than the methed out Adrienne Bled. Notice how he keeps hammering home the meth. Later, while she was describing her own battles with schizophrenia. Holy fuck, so now she's a schizophrenic. What next? Paedophile? What? But Satan? Like what next can we throw into the fucking mixing pot here, you fucking shit-stirring bastard, Ralph? Later, she was describing her own battles with schizophrenia. She would also tell me that Jacob imagined himself a living god. I apologize. I should have read this beforehand. She would also tell me that Jacob imagined himself as a living god and would go into deep psychotic states at her house. He thought he had... He thought he had magical powers. Basically, I think you're getting the idea. Shit was weird. Shit was getting weird, yeah, I agree. Still, it was a free lunch. He should write comedy. Just abandon the LARP of you being a serious journalist and start writing comedy, because this is the best punchline. So he gets a free lunch out of the guy who thinks he's Neo in the Matrix, who believes he's got magical powers. And he also gets the free lunch from the methed out crone, schizophrenic, lying, can't write for shit, catfish whore. But it was a free lunch. A few weeks later, I announced my divorce to the public. On a lectern, State of the Gunshan address there. I announced my divorce to the public during the weekend of AFPAC. Is that the Nick Fuentes birthday party that Ralph went to? The sort of hobbits gathering before they went off to, reclaim the gold from the dragon Smaug? I swear to God, everyone at the AFPAC was about 5'1", including Ralph, including Fuentes, including Beardson and all of those. Prince Hubris. All 5'1". It was like a hobbit's day out. Crazy. A few weeks later after that, she sent me a message on Twitter and told me that she had broken up with Jacob and that he had stolen half her clients on the way out. Clients? Is she also a prostitute now, Ralph? There was some back and forth for a short period of time until one day I sent her a message on Twitter.com. Amazing. So he spells out .com, as though we don't know what Twitter is. Again, so this is a message where she says, "It's okay, lol. I thought you were going to be like, you make terrible decisions in life and I cannot be associated with you anymore." And there's like a crying emoji. I've already got cancer reading that. And he says, he says, just straight up in response to that, "Nah, I just want to fuck you." And she says, "Haha, well, that's definitely an idea I'd entertain." if there wasn't a pandemic and you didn't have a GF, lol. I can't read the fine print, I'm sorry. I'll try my best. The line actually worked on Adrienne Blair. So Ralph is proud of his achievement there. Within 1 week, she had driven herself across the country to put my dick in her mouth. He really is a classy fellow, isn't he, Ralph? Real classy gentleman. I never expected I just want to fuck you to land me in the end zone. The end zone! Isn't the end zone like getting her pregnant? I thought that was the end zone. I thought the end zone was marriage. Not putting your 2-inch carrot in her mouth. It's apparently riddled by meth, so her teeth are rotted. That's what you're saying, but the end zone for Ethan Ralph is a sloppy, drugged-up blowjob. But you have to bear something in mind, gentlemen. Most of these whores have no self-esteem. So now he's doing his Coach Red Pill LARP, where he's giving us all life lessons. I mean, Coach told me that just before he died. His dying words were, remember, Adam Godwinson, most of these whores have no self-esteem. If Aid had any, she wouldn't have let Zyger slap her around all of these years. Come on, man. Like, it's so fucking bad. She wouldn't... So it's all her fault that she was hit. Okay. All right, so the camera is just fucking up. There's nothing I can do. The phone isn't well. All I can do is just power through and hope to God we finish the article before the phone explodes. So, most of these whores have no self-esteem. If Aid had any, she wouldn't have allowed Zyger to slap around all of these years. She wouldn't have taken him back every single time, eating shit in public with each degradation. At least I get... Also, like, doesn't Ralph eat shit in public? Like, literally eat shit in public? At least I get paid somewhat handsomely for my life for my life being a spectacle. Now, if you think being paid 0.0000012 of a cent, that's the equivalent of a lemon, is being handsomely paid, you know, then just let me sell you something, you know. Let me sell you a water filter. It'll be the best thing you've ever purchased. We need to power through this. She, to borrow the famous phrase, does it for free, like Gator. Well, maybe that's not entirely accurate. She does get something out of the deal, online attention from her more popular boyfriends. That's what she truly gets off on. It's what she truly gets off on, because she's a 40-year-old e-whore. Ooh. And now he's both italicized and emboldened this next sentence I'm about to read to you. You see, Adrienne Blair is like a whore moth attracted to the E-fame flames. Okay, so he's proud of that one. He's proud of that metaphor, the whore moth, the E-fame flame. He's proud of that one, so he's drawn it out from the article to try and make it look somewhat professional. What a disaster. I guess when you work at a home reclamation joint all day, you don't get too much excitement. So now he's just fully dropping the woman's place of work. So what do? Well, you latch on to people more famous than you. Holy shit. Ralph's the top dog, right? A famous celebrity. But when your voice sounds like nails on a chalkboard and you're just bland in general, you don't have too many options. Coming from a man who sounds like a dolphin. So Adrienne Blair drove across the country during the heart of the COVID-19 pandemic just to let me stick... This is literally how he writes this. Just to let me stick my dick down her throat. Sadly, she wasn't even good at that. Oh, fuck. So now she can't even suck a D. Whoa! There's so many things wrong with Adezero. Fuck. World's worst woman? Press 1. You would think that with all the mileage on this old broad, that she could at least give a decent blowjob, but I guess not. Well, if her previous boyfriend was a guy who thought he was a wizard, I imagine she didn't have much chance to be intimate, right? Or maybe the wizard Keanu Reeves figure who thought he had magical powers. Maybe he imbued some of those magical powers on Aid's tongue there. Maybe when she was with him, she was the blowjob extraordinaire there. And then when Keanu Reeves popped off, Randy stared a wise supermarket. Maybe he took away the magical blowjob powers from Adezero, and you're left with just the sloppy, toothless, cracked out meth whore blowjob Ralph. A few things struck me from our time together. One, Aid is methed out literally all the time. I never saw any illegal drugs. Isn't meth an illegal drug? Is it just me? Isn't meth an... I don't have mental illness, but let me list my mental illnesses. Ralph here. Aid literally methed out all the time, but I never saw any illegal drugs, because if he did, he'd have to go to jail, because he'd be violating his probation, wouldn't he? Ooh. But she would often boast of having actual meth at her house. When she was with me, it was just Adderall prescription 24/7. Yeah, of course, Ralph. If she was really a cracked out meth whore, do you honestly think she could go 24/7 without it? Come on, Ralph. Who are you trying to fool? Either she had the meth and you violated your probation, or she didn't have the meth and she's just on Adderall, and she admitted to having like these prescription drugs that you stole. You stole. You're like an animal. I don't know if this was the case, or this was the cause of her mental instability, or if she's just naturally unbalanced, but she would often have debilitating panic attacks that I would have to talk her down from. How is he talking her out of a panic attack? While she's spazzing out there, Ralph is just firing up the kill stream and getting her to watch. This'll make you better, baby. I would have to talk her down from these panic attacks like you would a child. Again, this is a 40-year-old woman we're talking about. She may have been older than I am by half a decade, so like 5 years, right? Half a decade. How he tries to make the gap between them seem massive. Half a decade. But she still comports herself like a strung-out teenager. Another was her clinginess. Believe it or not, I work most of the day. Don't believe it. X to doubt. You wake up at 9 p.m. That's confirmed. You wake up half an hour before your show is supposed to go live. You get Gator to pipe in through a Discord call everything you've missed, what to address and what not to address. And then you hit the ground running. At the end of the show, if you're not already tanked up, you're slamming bottles of Maker's Mark and Woodford Reserve until you're blackout drunk and you pass out in the same puddle of piss you woke up in. Believe it or not, I work most of the day. No. Messages, emails. Is sending an email work? Is using Discord work? Messages, emails, show prep, show ideas, social media. So tweeting is Ralph's job. This shit is basically non-stop. She thought I should pay more attention to her than my job. Speaking of I can't believe he's got the neck, the front of Ralph to call this a job, and to just laugh and pretend that it's a big job he's got. Speaking of my job, she would get upset that I didn't mention her on air enough. I thought maybe it was just an insecurity thing at the time, or maybe that was a part of it. But what I really think it was all about is her massive lust for true e-fame. Or wouldn't she be going for someone else there, Ralph? Wouldn't she be going for literally anyone else if she wanted true e-fame? Ethan Ralph. Imagine hitching your wagon to Ethan Ralph thinking that Ethan Ralph is going to make you a star when Ethan Ralph lives with his own mother in a crack shack. She would seethe constantly about having to work an actual job. In fact, when we first got together, she wasn't working at all. When she got the offer to go back to Aaron Builders shortly after we started dating. She had a massive panic attack because she knew she had to take it and go back to work. No more dole for Adezero. On the day she actually had to return, she sat on the phone with me in her car and cried for a solid hour before I coaxed her into the building. So this is like the tale of every NEET, right? Every NEET that finally realizes the benefit payments have come to an end and they've got to go back to work. Ralph, you've got Ethan Ralph dragging you out of the car to start the job. So this is the next line, just a floating line on its own. He writes 40 full stop years full stop old full stop. The last thing, again, like Ralph is almost 40, right? Ralph's closer to 40 than I am, you know, than anyone else I know is. But he's trying to make out that, you know, he's a child. He has zero responsibility. He can't believe that there's this 40-year-old woman that's merely like 5 months out from his age that's behaving like this. The last thing that sticks out for the purposes of this article was how she absolutely didn't want me to leave. I broke up with her on the day before I went to California. Since she was acting so insecure about this, it hasn't got anything to do about you meeting Faith, the child bride, in California at Dick Masterson's mansion and knowing that there was grass on the pitch so you could play ball there, Ralph. There was nothing about that, was there? It wasn't purely because you had like a new model there, a Faith Vickers lined up. Nah, it was purely because Adezero was an evil bitch. So I broke up with her before I went to California. She was acting so insecure about me not mentioning her enough for the 100th time. Not kidding. I said, let's just downgrade this thing to a friends with benefits type situation. What benefits does Ralph possibly give? She actually agreed to this, and I thought we were all good. It wasn't until I got back from California that she said that we were still together. Why? ? Because I had never called her back to finalize. You see, towards the end of the call, I said I would ring. This is fucking Jerry Springer shit, isn't it? This is pure Jeremy Kyle shit, you know? Get them on a stage, let them scream at each other. We'll do lie detector tests. We'll do a paternity test. I'll scream, you're an horrible cunt, in all their faces. We'll get Graham on to do the fucking psychiatric evaluation. Then I'll tell them all to fuck off because we're going to the advertising break. I would ring her again to talk about it some more later, but I had to catch the flight the next morning and the time slipped away. We had clearly already agreed to the status change, though, so I fucked someone else in California. Like, who's he trying to kid? He already knew he was going to fuck this girl in California. So he did his best to haphazardly break up with Adezero so he could have a clear conscience whilst he was sticking the hoove into Faith Vickers' chocolate starfish. And that's what he was doing. That's what he was doing. What a piece of shit. That he'd eat, that he'd sniff, that he'd smear himself in because he's a degenerate fuck. The crazy bitch considers my actions cheating, and that's why she's now made up a bunch of lies about me online. No sane person would agree with her assertion. Sorry, I thought he'd... No sane person would agree with her assertion. Well, I'd agree with her. Maybe I'm not sane, maybe there's too many fucking bumblebees in the world, but I think she's right to call you out on this. You were bullshitting her, it's transparent. You wanted out quick, so you could have a clean conscience. Fact she curiously admitted from her drugged out appearances on live streams. So is he talking about her interview with Josh there? Isn't it just me, but I didn't think she was drugged out? It may sound like I'm fucking white knighting for Adezero. No, I'm just saying it as I see it. I don't think she sounded drugged out. She sounded pretty coherent. She was giving good answers, really, wasn't she? She was giving fairly coherent, thought out, responsive answers. She wasn't slurring her words. She didn't pass out in a puddle of her own vomit. Finally, I got away. Finally, Ethan Ralph escaped out of this abusive situation. This is what he's saying here. Finally, I got away from Adrienne Blair. She threatened me and attacked me. I'm a victim. But I talked her down into friendship once again. Well, so I thought. Whores like this will never go back to being cool with you. Well, look, I mean, if you're not listening to Coach where he says never badmouth a lay, come on, Ralph. She was simply taking her time and examining where to stick the knife. Best. This is a lesson that I had to learn the hard way. Isn't this like a lesson you learn when you're like 15 years old? You know, isn't this like a lesson that every man learns? Like, almost instantaneously? But it's taken Ralph 36 years to get to this point. 35, 36 years to get to the point where he's finally realizing that a woman scorned, there ain't nothing like 'em. This is a lesson I had to learn the hard way, but I won't be relearning it. I think you will be, because you've got the fucking child bride there who's also batshit off the wall. I mean, her ex-boyfriend, whilst he wasn't fucking Keanu Reeves there, thinking he had magical powers, her ex-boyfriend wore dildos on his head. Smoked meth. Was genuinely fucked in the brain. But okay, it's not going to be happening again, Ralph, is it? Hopefully a couple of you will read this and recognise some of the patterns in your own relationships. Thanks, Coach Ralph Pill. I guarantee you there is some head nodding going on here. The only head nodding that's going on is this. In disbelief that you decided to commit this to paper. As for Adrienne's future, I am sure she will continue whoring herself on the internet until she dies of a massive meth-induced heart attack. Shit. But until then, be wary, gentlemen. Or shall I say, be wary, gentlemen. This is a 40-year-old head case who acts like a 16-year-old junkie. And she's out there on the loose. The juice is loose, ladies and gentlemen. Let me be a cautionary tale for you all. Whilst you're a cautionary tale in many such ways, you're not a cautionary tale here, Ralph. No matter how you try and paint yourself as the victim and the innocent party and all of this. Like, well, there we go. Let him be a cautionary tale. Don't be the next victim on this e-whore's list. And there we go. That's the end of the article there. Oh, no, there's a last little adjoinder, a PS, a corollary to the article that he's written. Oh, and I certainly don't encourage any of you to call Aaron Builders in Farmington Hills, Michigan, and let them know that Adezero published my social security number. Is this social security number really online? I thought that was purely in the possession of Dick Masterson, but if his social security number is out there online, we're going to have some great times. Today, I found out while I was editing, the article? Editing what, Ralph? You do live stream. I don't think it's a good look to employ someone like that, but it's their call. There we go. It's dripping with venom and hatred and scorn. What do we make of that, ladies and gentlemen? I think we do a beyond belief, fact or fiction. You know, was it all bullshit? Were there remnants of truth? Who is the wronged party? Press 1 if you think that Ralph is the wronged party. Press 2 if you think that Ade is the wronged party. Press 3 if you think that I am the wronged party for having had to do an analysis of that garbage. What next is he gonna put up? Oh, my mum is dying and she told me to do the dishes. Is that what's going to be the next article? I wouldn't be surprised at this point. Oh, I ate my cat. Ah! Remember when he ate his cat, ladies and gentlemen? Remember when he sat there and ate his fucking cat? But yeah, there we go. It's another fucking hour in the news cycle. At this point, we need like a 24/7 rolling news coverage of what the Gunt is doing, because I certainly can't be asked to cover shit like this constantly. I just want to see either a suicide, either Faith leaving him, either the demonic baby to be born and it being black. Any number of those things will make me happy. Aside from that, like, it's just trivial shite, ladies and gentlemen. Trivial shite. And with that, I'm gonna sign off. What more do you want from me? What more do you... That was fucking garbage! Alright, take care, folks.